I'm Margaret. Welcome to Knit Pickers PEI in beautiful downtown Mayfield. Now, Mayfield is a community, not a town, not a village, but a small community located about, 5 kilometers or so south of Cavendish Beach on the north shore of Prince Edward Island. Today, I'm going to show you a really fun and easy way to create a faux rib stitch. Now, you see this scarf that I've got on? Would you believe there is not a single purl stitch in this entire scarf? It is knit using our superwash merino wool, and I used 2 skeins to complete the whole scarf. And I also used our 4.5 millimeter needles. I used circular needles, which you can use whatever you like. I used these particular needles. They're the Square brand, and should I say they are Kollage's needles, but they are their Square brand. Now the Square needles, I thought were going to be a little bit odd to work with, but in fact they're easier on your hands and they create less stress and strain on your hands than regular knitting needles do. So you might want to give them a try. I'll include links to both the wool that I used for this particular scarf as well as our knitting needles in the show notes below. I think you're really going to love working with this. It is so soft and squishy. The fabric is fabulous. And as I say, it's super quick, super easy. It's a series of slip stitches and knit stitches and not a single purl in sight. So, shall we get started?
Okay, so to start, what you want to do to knit this scarf is to cast on multiples of 4 stitches plus an additional 3 stitches. So for our little sample swatch here today, my multiple of 4 was casting on 12 stitches, and then I cast on 3 additional stitches. I used the long tail cast on method, but you could cast on in whatever pattern, whatever method you prefer. I'll include a link below to my video that shows you how to do the long tail cast on in case you want to learn it or maybe you need a refresher. So on your first row, and for every subsequent odd numbered row, your pattern goes as follows. You knit 3 stitches, you slip a stitch purlwise with the yarn in front. Then you knit 3, slip a stitch purlwise with the yarn in front, knit 3, and you end up ending the row with slip a stitch yarn in front, knit 3. So let's take a look at this. So I'm just going to knit 3 stitches. I'm a thrower, not a picker, but if you were a picker, I'm not very good at that, but you just wind your yarn around like that. So there's my first 3 stitches. I'm going back to throwing. Knit 3. Now what I do is I bring my yarn in front as if to purl. I go into the yarn or into the stitch from top to bottom as if I was going to purl that stitch, and I slide it off my needle. So I'm slipping the stitch purlwise, and then I bring my yarn to the back of the work again as if I'm going to knit, which I'm going to do. I knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. I bring my yarn to the front as if I'm going to purl. I go into my stitch from top to bottom as if I'm going to purl that stitch, and I slide it off my needle and then bring my yarn to the back. So if you look really closely, you can actually see there's your purl bump there, and here's the yarn. So it's wrapping around the needle. Carry on, knit 3 stitches, bring the yarn to the front as if I'm going to purl, enter that stitch as if I was going to purl that stitch from right to left, or if you want to say from top to bottom, slide it or slip it off your needle and bring your yarn back into knitting position again. And I'm going to end my row with knit 3. So that's the pattern that you follow for every odd numbered row. Now we're going to do our even numbered row. And this is completely reversible. You can see even on the scarf that I was wearing, there's no pattern difference front to back. It all looks like a regular rib stitch. So on row number 2, and for every subsequent even numbered row, I start my row with knit 1, and then I bring my yarn forward, slip the stitch purlwise, so entering the stitch as if I'm going to purl it, slide it off my needle, and bring my yarn around again to the back so I can knit 3 more stitches. So in this case, your pattern on the row is knit 1, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, until you get to the end. And what you're going to do is you knit 3, slip 1, knit 1. So you're ending your row on a knit 1. So here I've done my knit 1, slip 1, and I was talking too much, so I'm just going to undo that last one. I knit 3, and then I bring my yarn around to the front, slip that stitch, yarn to the back, knit 3, bring my yarn to the front, slip the stitch purlwise, yarn goes back to the back again, knit 3, bring my yarn to the front, just like that, slip that stitch purlwise, yarn to the back, and knit that last stitch. So then I would be back to an odd numbered row again, where my pattern would be knit 3, slip 1 purlwise, knit 3, slip 1 purlwise, knit 3, slip 1 purlwise, knit 3. And you can see that it really does create quite an interesting little ribbed effect. It's stretchy, but you don't have to purl any stitches at all, which for those people who aren't fans of purling is a really nice thing. Now, how many rows do you need to do to knit a scarf? Well, I guess it just really depends on how long you want your scarf to be. I knit until I reached the end of my second skein, leaving just enough yarn to cast off. So what I did was I finished row 1, or the odd number row. That was my last row that I knit. And then you cast off going knit 1, purl 1, slip the first stitch over the second. So you're doing a knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and slipping your stitches over as you cast off. I can actually show you what I did here. So I'm on row 2, but this is how I would have cast it off. I knit 1, I'm going to purl a stitch, and then I lift my first stitch up and over the second stitch. So I ended with a purl stitch, so the next stitch will be a knit stitch. So you just are going knit 1, purl 1, lifting this one up and over. and that's going to give you your cast off edge, and it also will then follow the mock pattern of your rib stitch.
So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a fun new way to create what looks like a rib stitch. Now, it could be used to create a scarf, it can be used to create a blanket, it could be used on the cuff of a sweater or a beautiful neckline. There's all sorts of different applications you can try for this. Just remember that you need to cast on in multiples of 4 plus 3 stitches. So in other words, if you're going to cast on 100 stitches, that's your multiple of 4. So you'd cast on a grand total of 103 stitches. Thanks again, enjoy, and happy knitting.